Here we go. I've just switched this on. No one will be with us yet, but that's okay because I'm just here by myself, waiting for people to flock to my wisdom. No, obviously not. And there may be one or two. I don't know. I think I've started this slightly early. I can't tell, but I'm just switching it on, and I'm going to wait to see if someone comes and chat. Hang on. So I've got some notifications going there, so let me get rid of those. Richard Freeman has joined. The first Richard Freeman. Hello, Richard. Can I show you something, Richard, before we get started? Here it is, Richard Freeman in Pride of Place. Hi, Julie Day-Laws. Nice to see you. I've met you before. Richard and Julie, as you're here, this is the famous witch bottle that was given to me by a mysterious packager. I wasn't sure who it was from, and it spooked the whole family out, and it was quite creepy and exciting. Look at it. Look at the way it's been designed. It's so gross and weird, and it rattles. And guess what it turned out to be? It turned out to be a trick from Richard Freeman, who was currently there in my bottom left-hand corner. Yeah, he sent me this witch bottle. But I'll tell you what was really strange about it, and what I found really odd, was that in this book, Possessed, which I'm talking about this evening, but I can talk about other things. In this book, Possessed, there is a similar-ish thing to this, something to do with a box. And weirdly enough, I thought, when this witch bottle came, I thought, oh my goodness, the publishers have done a really clever kind of promo thing and sent that to me. Sent this to me, and it turned out it was Richard Freeman, so that's good. So hello, Richard, good to see you. Liz Barnsley, hello, Liz. Nice to see you. This is a welcome to the question and answer session, or just the general chat session. A few people are kind of gather up. I've got myself a lovely bit of wine here, so I can sip on this, and then if you have any questions, feel free to go. The first question there has already come through from Richard, which is, hi, old mate, how are you? Yeah, life imitating art, quite right. I'm good, thanks. I've had an all right day. It's weird. When a book comes out, it's a mixture of excitement and existential dread, because you don't know if people are going to like it. You honestly don't. I know some people think that authors are kind of very confident all the time. Sam Lyman, hello, Sam. Nice for you to join us. I know people think that authors are super confident, or some are at least, and when the book goes out, they'll be, oh my goodness, everyone's going to love this. But to be honest, you never know. When you're writing a book, at the time you think, this is working in my head, but is it going to be of interest to anyone else? And so when Possessed came out, I was nervous. And every time my books have come out, they've always gone to the same book reviewer first, which is Liz, who's actually with us, joining us. And Liz is great, and she's such a great support. But you never know, you think, oh my goodness, is this going to be the one that she hates? And she's like the bellwether to let me know if I like it, if it's okay or not. And this time she liked it every time, actually. That's a big deal, so that's nice. Hello, Tracy Shaw. Nice of you to join us. We're just currently chatting at the moment. For those of you who've just joined us, we're talking about this book, Possessed, this kind of live Q&A. If you've got any questions about that, feel free. I've had some questions sent in already, which I'll get to in a moment. But I was just explaining that this witch bottle is here. Hey, tea at the ready. Fantastic. Well, hello, Leslie Crooks. It was the best one. Wow, Liz reckons this book was the best one. That's encouraging. Leslie Crooks, by the way, out there, she's my fine editor. And she's the one who first said yes to Purge, which was fantastic. Oh, I like how Liz says so far. Yes, maybe it's the best book so far. Who knows? This might be the last one. Who knows? We'll see. Or maybe there'll be thousands more. I hope so. We'll see. Teresa Clark has joined us. Nice to see you, Teresa. Hope you're having a nice day. And welcome to our little party. If you haven't got a drink, by the way, go get one. I'm drinking like a Shiraz. I don't like white wine. Hello, Juliet. Juliet Gregson. Photographer extraordinaire. Yeah, I don't like white wine. I'll tell you why I don't like white wine. It's because it reminds me of holy water. It reminds me of cheap, like Liebfraumilch drinking in the woods when you're a teenager. Whereas this has an air of respectability. Okay, so here's a question. Do you think that people can genuinely be possessed? That was me pretending to be possessed, by the way. That's a very good question and a very relevant one, obviously. I think it's theoretically possible because I believe in God, and also I'm open to the idea of its counterpart, or his counterpart, the devil. And so it's possible, theoretically, but I've got to say, I'm constantly cautious and cynical about claims of people who say they're possessed by the devil, because it is so easy to misdiagnose mental health issues as that, and I really think that can be dangerous. And so for me, I would say that you have to be incredibly cautious, and I can't think of a time when it wouldn't be correct and proper to involve mental health professionals and people to come in and check on somebody purely in the physical realm. But I would still offer spiritual things. So yeah, that might sound like a cop-out, but I'm theoretically open to it. But I'm not the type who would jump straight in and say that guy's possessed by the devil. But yeah, I think it could be possible. I do believe in the potential of personified evil. Now, let's see another question come in. That husband asks, will Bigfoot make an appearance in future books? Leslie, tell your husband, right? Like, he might say that as a joke, right? But in my ideal world, Matt Hunter would become a kind of Kolchak, the Night Stalker type character. If your husband may know who that is, but it's a 70s TV show where this guy just starts to investigate all of the the weird, bizarre creatures of the world. So demons in this book, but yeah, who knows in the future, someone pretended to be Bigfoot. I suppose I'd have to shoehorn some sort of religious thing in there to stay on brand. So maybe Bigfoot could be a raging Methodist or something. I don't know, but yeah. I'm a big fan of Sasquatch. Right, let's see. There's another question here. By the way, I've got to reach over and touch the screen, so I hope it doesn't look like I'm scratching your face. Does Matt ever come up against anything actually supernatural, or is it all human fakery like Scooby-Doo? Who the heck's Scooby-Doo? I never heard of him. Is he a pirate? Hang on a minute. Ah, Scooby. Oh, Matt, I mean, yeah. So, Matt and Scooby-Doo. Well, actually, the point of these books, I tried to make it possible to have both views. And so you can read this book. Hi, Barbara. Nice for you to join me. You could easily see this book as being a book that all of the books that are purely rational all the way through. A bit like the film The Omen. You can read The Omen. That's just about rational events going wrong and people misinterpreting them. However, I do think you could read the books as being having genuine supernatural things too. So, for example, in Possessed, you can read that and think, "God, this is all crazy people," or I should say, people who are troubled and have been misinterpreted as crazy and then misinterpreted as possessed. But you could read it and think, "Wow, maybe the devil really does exist." So yeah, that's possible. Right, okay, let's go back up, see what else we've got. I hope Indy doesn't vomit on your new book like she did Seven. Thanks, that's my sister, by the way. Everyone say hi to my sister, Julie J. Laws, who has a cat who was sick on one of my books, which was probably my best review yet. If she does, maybe she's possessed too. Quite possibly. Let's wait to see if the head twists round. Barbara, yes, hello Barbara once again. Liz says, I often think my kids are possessed. Yeah, maybe they are. You never know. You should hold up a cross and see if they start spitting things out. That could happen. Richard Freeman comments there saying Kolchak was amazing. It was a great TV show, and the second best TV show ever after the classic Doctor Who. I've got to be honest with you, right? I'm not a big Doctor Who fan. As in, I don't watch a lot of Doctor Who. Not that I'm knocking it. I like Tom Baker, and the recent one, I'm fine with it. But yeah, it seems to have passed me by. Okay, Leslie Crooks. While you've been writing him, has Matt ever surprised you? Yes, I think so, and I'd say I think maybe in his emotional vulnerability that sometimes surprises me, and it sometimes kind of moves me. At the risk of sounding a bit kind of corny and Oprah Winfrey about it, I do find myself, particularly in the final chapters of every book, it's a kind of culmination of Matt's kind of stressful journey, and it happens in the end of this book. And I sometimes, when I'm writing it, I can find myself a little bit upset, or when it's like coming to the end of the book, but also I just feel Matt's vulnerability, that he goes in there and he's like, yes, I can do this. But in this book, particularly, he needs to hold on to his wife, Ren, because she's like this sort of source of strength in the midst of all of these crazy things in his life. For some reason, this last chapter, when I wrote this, I was tapping it away and a little tear came down. Because I just find it, there's a bit where they hold hands at the end, and it says something like he held her hand. What is it? Let me have a look. So it'd be corny and all that, but it's something I found quite nice. Sorry, this is boring for you, isn't it? Yeah, here we go. She's saying to him right at the end of the book, you know, this isn't your fault about the things that happen in the book. And it says he felt himself shudder against her. And so her hand found his. So she holds his hand and he says he felt himself shudder. Her hand found his. And then since the beginning of time, these hands were meant to be clasped together just like this. I quite like that. So yeah, I would say he surprises me sometimes with his toilet humour as well. Although I find that sort of thing quite funny too. And yeah, there's a penal substitution joke in this book, which I probably would get crucified for. Anyway, LLO. I'm not quite sure what that means, Barbara. Is that like kid speak for something? You'll have to interpret because I'm an old man. Angela, once again, welcome. Okay, Liz Barnsley. Tristan, my 9-year-old, fine name there, says maybe you could have zombies in one of your books, and what do you think Matt would make of that? My child might be vaguely zombie obsessed. Well, ironically, Possessed was slightly inspired by zombie films and zombie movies. If anyone's read it, you'll find that the last sort of section of the book, which takes place at a kind of medical centre called the Reed, that section has a slight zombie vibe, and I tried to make nods to the great film director George A. Romero, who I met once, who was an absolutely wonderful guy, the late director of Nightmare on Elm Street and Dawn of the Dead and all. The guy who kind of invented the zombie genre. And there's a few lines in the book that sort of point towards zombies. The first time Matt sees a public a public demonic possessed person in the TV studio scene, somebody says, "Look, there's one of them now." That's a direct quote from Night of the Living Dead, where they see the first zombie. So yeah, there's a slight zombie vibe in that. And I love zombies. I like the idea of zombies, and I slightly am attracted to the idea of the world ending with a zombie apocalypse, and me and my family and a few of my friends and you guys maybe, we have to protect ourselves and find a way through. Okay. Barbara, lo was a typo. That's all right. I just wanted to say hello, and hello to you too. Lo. Julie J-Los, was Matt Hunter always Matt Hunter from the start, or did you have alternative names for him in the beginning? Actually, that wasn't easy to come up with a name for this character. It was actually quite tricky because you want it to sound kind of cool. And I thought if I called him his name Hunter, it would sort of appear like if somebody else would be called Hunter. There must be loads and loads of crime fiction characters with a second name Hunter, but there wasn't really any massive significant ones that I could find. And then the name Matt, I wasn't sure about Matt. I was like, is that the right word? Is that too down to earth? Or is that okay? Should I call him something cooler? Like Ethan Hunter or something. And then I thought that's too corny. So yeah, I stick with Matt Hunter. And I did like the symbolism of the name Hunter, of this idea of he's a bloke who's he's trying to sort of make sense of the world, and he's hunting for the kind of the overall answer to things, not necessarily a spiritual answer, but to try and answer all the crazy people around him. And I think the very first line in Purged, he says something that represents that. I think he says something like, "Where am I going?" to a police officer or something. I just wanted to put that in at the beginning. So yeah, good question. Ben Foster's watching. Hey everyone, say hi to Ben Foster. Right? I used to be a youth pastor, and when I was like down with the kids and stuff, all youthy and stuff, and Ben was one of my young people, and now he's like one of my old people. Well, sorry, he's like older. He's not as old as I am, and he's a writer as well. He's a teacher. He's a cool guy, and here he is, Ben Foster. Paul Childs. Aha! Finally managed to get this working. Hello, Mr. Rev. Hello, Paul Childs. How are you doing? I've noticed Paul Childs, by the way, everyone, he calls his wife Mrs. C. And I never thought of doing that for my wife. Mrs. L. Doesn't sound quite right. Mrs. L. Mrs. C. Has a ring to it. Simon Cragg is watching, the talented Simon Cragg. Hello. Whoa, Anna Hayes, all the big names. Nick Booth, everyone's joining in. That's fantastic. Anna Hayes is currently working in a Chinese takeaway. What was the last thing you served, Anna? I made an amazing meal tonight. I've got to say, it was quite impressive. It was in this like one roast tin thing, which we just put everything together, and I had to get a pestle and mortar out, which was quite impressive. Anyway, next question. I have a question that was sent to me earlier, so if you'll give me a minute, I'll quickly find out what the question is. And the first question I had sent to me earlier was as follows. When it comes to writing, am I a planner? This question comes from Angela Watt. Am I a planner? Yeah, kinda. Yeah, I think I am. What I tend to do is, to me, I think this is just my method, the way of writing a book is to kind of create a storyline and then just grow on it and then build on it and make it thicker and thicker and thicker until it becomes a novel. And so sometimes I'll literally just sit down and I'll think, oh, well, it would be cool if Matt Hunter was, trapped somewhere at the end. It would be cool if he has to experience, murder mystery at the beginning, or, all these sorts of things. And then gradually a storyline comes out of that. But I do it that way because I don't want to just write an entire story and spend ages on a massive story doing all the detail and then coming to the end and think, oh, darn, this is crap, it doesn't work. So I tend to plan out a rough idea and then I build on it and build onto the details and then it becomes a book. But I must say, when I do that, occasionally I get surprised and I think, oh, actually, this is not where I thought it was going to go. And then it goes off in another direction. And so that's quite thrilling when that happens. Like what Leslie was saying before. Oh, crud, where are your comments gone? Hang on. There they are. Okay. Right, here's another question. Oh, sweet and sour chicken. Oh, well, that's an admirable dish. Harry, this is from Liz Barnsley. Harry, my 12-year-old, not wanting to be left out, says, don't put an evil tooth fairy in any story because the tooth fairy freaks him out. The tooth fairy is freaky. Isn't he sneaking into houses, stealing teeth? Tell Harry he's absolutely right. The tooth fairy is like a burglar, is a thief, and steals things and then leaves not a very impressive amount of money usually, and so that's dodgy. And also, I remember once my dad told me once when I was a kid, he was on about the tooth fairy, and I remember he used to say, don't fall asleep ever with your head under the pillow, because when you wake up, the tooth fairy would have ripped all your teeth out. Which I always thought was quite a nice image. Well, maybe not nice, but anyway. There is, I'm sure, I can't think of it now, but I am sure there is a horror film with an evil tooth fairy in it. Oh, or a book. Is it by Poppy Bride? I can't remember, but there's definitely a book out there or a story where the tooth fairy is revealed for being evil. So, Harry, that's a very good question. Paul Childs. Hi, Peter. Is that how your voice goes? I don't know. I'll put on a voice for you, Paul. Hi, Peter. My question for you. You obviously did... I don't know if that's how you speak, by the way, but, a little bit of dynamics. Hi, Peter. My question for you. You obviously did some research into possession and exorcism while writing this book. Oh, you've asked a serious question. Now I feel bad about saying it funny. Okay, my question... my question for you. You obviously did some research into possession and exorcism when writing this book, but did you do any deliverance ministry training at priest school? I like that, priest school. Nah, not really. And I'll tell you for why. I'm ordained into the Baptist church, right? And the Baptist church are actually, I don't think, not very switched on to this sort of thing. And on one hand, that's annoying or a shame because this sort of thing is a factor of life. But on the other, it's reassuring. Let me explain both reasons. So, for example, if you're in the Anglican Church or if you're in the Catholic Church in the UK, and I think across the world too, if you're presented with someone who comes in and says, I am possessed by the devil, or things that are very clearly look like demonic activity, eyes rolling at the cross or whatever, or people levitating off beds and all that sort of jive, there's a system within certainly the Catholic Church, but also the Anglicans, where you can get support, clear support. Exorcists, deliverance ministers, set for looking after certain areas, and you can call on people to help you out. In the Baptist Church, actually, they deal with things in a much more, well, you could say rational way, in that the response tends to be pastoral. And so, if someone's going through something like that, you take them to the doctors, you help them, and of course you pray, and of course you offer them support. But you don't necessarily have a system where I can say, can you send me the Baptist exorcist for this area? Now, I've heard that this is changing and that there's potentially more going on in our in our denomination for that. However, there isn't a set system for that. And on one hand, like I say, some people would find that frustrating, but on the other, it could be a sign of wise cautiousness. I'll leave you to decide which is which. But so that means, because I was ordained in the Baptist Church, I wasn't given specific deliverance ministry training, although I was told, don't be shocked if sometimes you go into a house and things are flying around the room. I remember being told that vividly in a class, and I'm thinking, flippin' heck, does this happen? And they said, oh yeah, you'll see all sorts of crazy stuff. And so things can go a bit spooky, let's say that. Nicola Laws is watching. Hello, Nicola, nice to see you. Thanks, Angela. That was a nice happy face. Right, that's it, Paul Childs, you're right. Darkness Falls had Tooth Fairy as a baddie. That's right, and there are evil tooth fairies in the second Hellboy film, so there you go. There is tooth fairies out there. Paul Childs likes my impression of his voice. I knew I'd nailed that. Okay, Leslie Crooks says, we're going through a tooth fairy phase here. Must resist passing on that image to my eldest. Yeah, I know, you'd probably be a bit freaked out. Leslie, how much do you pay for a tooth? Just curious, because in our house, I mean, we've kind of moved on from tooth fairies a bit. My kid's 8. My kid's 8 and my other one's 11. They still ask for the tooth fairy thing, so they're still willing to believe it when cash is involved. But how much do you give? Because we kind of go for the sort of the £1, maybe £2, I think. Maybe, is it £1 or £2? But it's certainly not £5. And we got some friends who give £5 to their kid every time they lose a tooth. If I was that kid, I'd be thinking, flipping heck, if I knocked all my teeth out, I could get myself a PlayStation game or something. Anyway. Yeah, Richard's just confirmed that evil tooth fairies turn up in Hellboy 2. And, Anna Hayes points out The Rock as a tooth fairy could be considered disturbing. By the way, I have respect for The Rock. Gotta say, I do tend to find that I enjoy his films, and maybe I'm a sucker and just falling for the marketing, but he seems like a very nice guy. Liz Barnsley, Leslie, if your husband wants Bigfoot, he should read Devolution by Max Brooks, out soon. Oh, interesting. Max Brooks, do you mean the guy who wrote the zombie films? The zombie books, World War Z, and I didn't know there was going to be a Bigfoot book by him. That's good. Peter Saunders is watching. Hi, Peter, and Wynne Lewis. The great ones. Let's have a look. Now there's a YouTube video there from Richard. Don't know what that is. Probably his favourite new Doctor Who episode from the latest series. Right, Lee Franklin. Hey, Lee Franklin, by the way, she wrote a really great book called Berserker Green Hell. You should check it out. It's intense and crazy. It's like a sort of a Predator style monster science fiction horror set in the Vietnam War. I thought it was great. Right, Liz Barnsley, what is the spookiest thing that's ever happened to you? I got to tell you, right, is what happened to me with Unleashed, the book. Now, some of you will already know this if you've read the book Unleashed. But, yeah, that book's quite a personal book to me, and it means a lot to me, that second novel, Unleashed. And it's for various reasons, but mainly it's because what happens in the book happened to me when I was younger. I was a teenager, and me and my friends used to go, and we used to sort of break into spooky old places and do kind of Ouija boards, and we would do seances, or just like do anything that would get us scared or discover spooky things. And we would always drive there, and I would always be responsible for the music, and we would be playing the soundtrack to Pet Sematary or the Amityville horror, something to get us in the mood. It was really quite cool and a cheap way for a good night. But we broke into a place called the Hermitage, which is in Chesler Street. And we hopped over the fence there and... Sorry, when I say broke in, we hopped over the fence or the wall and ran in when you're not supposed to be in. It used to be a former miners' hospital, I think. And then we went round and then we were able to get in one of the doors. I know you're not supposed to do this, right? But hey, we get in one of the doors and we're looking around and that was really dark. And as we were coming out, this was pretty spooky. I looked up and on the roof, I just saw this black figure standing on the roof. And it was kind of... I couldn't tell if it was a human or if it was an animal, and it was standing there and then it was crouching down. And the irony is, of course, that's what happens in Unleashed. The protagonists in that. Sorry, the female group, the girl group in that, see exactly that, and that's what I saw. And I ran home. We all ran home. I was terrified. I ran home and I wrote it all down in my diary, and then I ran back. Sorry, I wanted to run back to see, but when I went back, I was like, no, this is not a good idea, and I didn't go back in. Anyway, years later, Liz, decades later, well, maybe 12 years later or something, I became a Christian, and I went to this minister once in a church, and I was struggling with a few things, and I asked him to pray for me, and he said, I think it's good that I pray for you, because I can see... Oh, sorry, he said the other night I saw this black figure standing next to you, walking around with you. And I was like, oh my goodness, what do you mean? Anyway, prayed for me, and it was kind of weird when he did that, because there was some stuff going on. It did feel quite intense, and like something was happening, but I don't know what. Could have been just in my head. And then not long after that, I was singing in Blackpool, because you got to do a bit of singing, and I was singing in a Blackpool nightclub. I think I was in this competition, and it was like night clubbing, sort of tell her about it, that sort of singing, classic Las Vegas style. And then I went into the hotel. They put me up in a hotel that night, and I was lying in the bed at night, and when I woke up in the middle of the night, I saw that figure again from my teenage years walking towards me in the room, and it disappeared. And I thought, and this is the weird thing, I always thought of it in my head, I called it the Black Rabbit. I don't know why I called it that. I just thought that's what it is. It's the Black Rabbit, this tall Black Rabbit. This was way before Donnie Darko came out. Maybe I was influenced by Watership Down, the Black Rabbit of Inlay. I don't know, but that was darn spooky. And it never happened again after that. And I'm open to the idea that maybe it was just all in my head. But that's probably one of the creepiest things that's happened to me. But I find it fascinating as well. And maybe that's why Unleashed got under my skin. And maybe that's why Unleashed gets under other people's skin. Because I've had a lot of people say that book does something to them. Some people can't read it, finish it, because it's so crap. No, some people have said to me they couldn't finish it because it made them feel threatened. Maybe there's a black rabbit that comes free with every book. Who knows? Anyway, great question. A long answer, but I hope that was okay. Lee Franklin. Hey, Peter. Hello. Leslie Crook says the last one fell out late at night. I assume she's talking about teeth, not about Bigfoot. Richard Friedman, do you believe in Fortean phenomena? And if so, which ones have you experienced, if any? Yeah, I do believe in Fortean phenomena. I think things happen that we can't initially explain and like falls through the gaps of explanation. Does that mean that it's completely supernatural when not always? Because, a lot of things that used to be classed as supernatural, and then we discovered them actually turned out to be not supernatural. So I suppose in your line of work, the idea of like the Komodo dragon being seen as a mythical beast and then being discovered as being actually real. And so, yeah, maybe there's a lot of the things that we experience now that we can't explain, and maybe can be explained one day, but other things, I don't know. And I must admit, right, lately, I can be quite cynical about people like who are mediums and people who say like messages from beyond the grave to others, but more and more lately, I've been meeting people who've told me their stories of these types of people saying something to them which is actually really hard to deny, like very specific, and that's intriguing me at the moment, because that's pretty darn spooky, even though it can be fraught with people who are conning others as well. £1 per tooth in the Liz Barnsley household. It's perfectly respectable. Leslie Crook says her husband got stoned for £5. Flippin' heck, let's hope your kids have just got 2 massive teeth. Like 2 gigantic teeth and then no other teeth. Then you can get away with 10 you get away with £10, but £5. Wow. Well, you know, you're high rolling, Leslie. You know, you're a book editor. So here's the next one. Richard Freeman, I got 50p back in the 70s. Wow. Mind you, 50p go a long way in those days, wouldn't it? You probably buy about four bottles of Dandelion and Burdock, right? Leslie Crooks had no change. Had to say it was the real prime. Oh, I see, right. Yeah, fair enough. He could have always said, well, look, I'm going to pay you in advance for the next 5 teeth. That could have been an idea. Okay. Anna Hayes. Oh, I love Dwayne. He's fab. What? Oh, Dwayne The Rock. Right, sorry. I'm a bit behind the times now because of my spooky story. Yeah, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He is cool, isn't he? I like him. He's got amazing arms, man. I don't know how it's possible to be like that. Right, Kate Garraway. Hello, Kate. Lovely for you to join us. Right, Lee Franklin goes, she gives £1 a tooth. By the way, if you've just joined us, this is the live Q&A. I'm talking about my books, my writing and all other things. And it's a free-for-all because we're talking about loads of stuff, including how much you should pay your kid for a tooth from the Tooth Fairy. And Lee Franklin offers £1 for toddlers and £2 for big ones. What are big ones? Like 18-year-olds or like 6-footers? I don't know. I guess older. Anna Hayes says we didn't get any money for our teeth. They just got chucked in the bin. Oh my goodness. That's heartbreaking. How could they do that to you? Wow. And what a horrible rattly bin you must have had. Right. Alice Barnsley confirms that the Max Brooks book on Bigfoot is also written by the guy who did the zombie books, and that's exciting. I'll have to check that out. Richard Freeman says he hates the new Doctor Who. Yeah, don't get him started on that. He despises it. Right, Lee Franklin. Thanks, Peter. Ben Foster says the Terry Pratchett book Hogfather has a gang attempt to use the Tooth Fairy's teeth hall to magically brainwash all the children in the world, and the only one who can stop them is death. Oh my goodness, that's cheery. But that's a nice image. Leslie Crook says, bit of a theme developing here. Gareth asks, what's your favourite cryptid? Oh, that's a good question, Gareth. I mean, I am a sucker for Bigfoot, I've got to say. Sasquatch, Bigfoot, those sorts of things. I love that stuff. I'm potentially going to interview soon for the Fortune Times the daughter of a guy called Charles Bedius, who made a very influential film for me, which is The Legend of Boggy Creek, which is about the Fouke monster. And so yeah, I do rather like that. I quite like other ones too. I mean, like the Mothman is I like the thing about the Mothman, particularly the sort of the most famous one about him, because the idea of not only seeing a cryptid like this. By the way, if you're not sure what a cryptid is, it's like a sort of hidden monster, a sort of a creature we don't know what it is yet. The Mothman, not only was it like a monster of something like walking around and displaying itself to people, but also bringing a sort of prophecy of disaster, and that loads of people died in a bridge collapse. Like that's just all kind of a bit crazy. I'm friends actually with Richard Hatem, who wrote the film the Mothman Prophecies, which I found was a really interesting film with Richard Gere. But anyway. So yeah, I think Sasquatch is my favourite cryptid, but I'm open to them all. I'm an equal opportunities crypto guy. I'm not an expert on cryptozoology, of course. The Loch Ness Monster, he's good for visiting, and Chupacabra. Right, Anna Hayes. I had a friend who claimed to have seen the Mothman on his drive home from work the night his house burned down. See, there you go. So the friend saw this creature, but it came with a prophecy of doom. Oh goodness, I can feel a Matt Hunter book coming on here. Right. Liz Barnsley. Oh, Mothman freaks me out. I don't like the thought of that at all. This is good. I'm going to write that down. Richard Freeman says Tasmanian wolf all the way. By the way, Gareth, if you're out there listening, or Leslie, pass this on to Gareth. Richard Freeman, you need to talk to him or just follow his stuff, because he is like a cryptozoologist extraordinaire, travels the world hunting for the Mongolian death worm and all sorts of other cryptids. And yeah, he's a good guy. Right, okay, I suppose I better speed up here and see what we've got. Blackpool total I love Blackpool. I'm a drink to Blackpool. I once got ridiculously drunk in Blackpool. It was when I was a student, and my brother and my dad used to go to Blackpool with the Working Man's Club, and they came to pick me up, right? Yeah, that was it. They came to pick me up from Lancaster University, where I was studying, and they all came in this van, and there I am surrounded by all of these kind of intellectuals, and for fun they thought it would be really funny to hold up porn mags and stick their bare buttocks out of the window. Couldn't believe it. It was hilarious. And anyway, they took me to I went to Blackpool with them, and I have no idea how I got home back to Lancaster, but I did. But that was a miracle. Right. Yes, Angela Watt says Mothman is terrifying. How interesting. Mothman's making me think. Right, Kevin Miller. Watch out for Kevin Miller, everyone, because he orders stuff from Wish. And anyone who has seen the sort of stuff that Wish recommends on Facebook can clearly see that there's something dysfunctional going on there. Right. Tammy Webster. Hello, Tammy. Great to see you. Tammy is a big supporter of a film called The Parapod Movie, by the way, which is a film that's just come out, which I'm just about to watch. I just started watching it last night because I'm going to be reviewing it in my Fortune Times column, and it's funny. It's a kind of a documentary comedy, skeptics and believers rattling around the idea of the supernatural, which of course is the let's stay on target, the theme of these Matt Hunter books. Okay. Leslie Crook says Watership Down. Watership Down is gutting, isn't it? It's so sad, and it is also so terrifying. And the bit at the beginning, the stuff about the introduction where it says then when they catch you, they will kill you, but first they must catch you, runner, digger, and all that stuff, man. Oh, I could shivers. Okay, that is spooky. Maybe a thing that not only happened to you, given Donnie Darko Unleashed is uber creepy. Thank you. Yes, I think that's true. Right, here's another one, and a bit more fun than the last one. Has any particular film or book stayed with you, kept you awake at night, worrying about, watching the cupboard door? For me, The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen really got under my skin, as did Stephen King's The Jaunt. They're two great stories. The Great God Pan particularly really stands out, but The Jaunt too. Yeah, things have got under my skin, definitely. But the things that really get under my skin are parasites. No, the thing that get under my skin are stories about insanity and people who end up going crazy. And so the idea that you could potentially go mad, I feel pretty sane, to be honest, but I have got a pretty wild imagination. And I suppose it's possible that someone could go just stark raving mad. And so I find that if I'm watching a film like, say, Roman Polanski's Repulsion, where you just can't tell whether or not the lead character is insane or not, or if what's happening around her is real, that excites me, but it also frightens me. The idea of like what would you do if you just suddenly started seeing things that were inexplicable? They would either be supernatural or they would be insanity, I suppose. And this is one of the things I discovered in my book, The Frighteners, the non-fiction book, which is in local bookshops now. When I did kind of solo ghost hunts in that book, I enjoyed it, but I found it very scary because I thought, gosh, if I see something, I've got no one with me to self-verify if what I'm seeing is in my mind or if it's in real life. And so yeah, I find topics that are about the potential of someone losing their mind is freaky. I think that's why I like H.P. Lovecraft, because that happens a lot. Okay, I'm trying to go up. Shirley Lee. Oh, Shirley Leach is watching. Hello, Shirley. Nice to see you. Now, I can't scroll back up there, so I hope I'm not missing any of your things, but Sasquatch and Yeti intrigues me. I watched loads about it as a kid. Yeah, it is cool, that stuff. Now, I think I've got some sort of issue here. So bear with me, right? I'm going to give it a little bit of a... there you go. I couldn't quite turn up. Oh, look, there you can see. Look at that. There's the mothership. Ugh, that looks like a medical... like a medical photograph. But it's not too thingy. The next time I go hunting for the Yeti, do you want in? That's in theory that sounds amazing, but I don't feel like I'm the right guy for those sorts of things. You need experts. You need people who know what they're doing, and I'm an idiot. Right, Stuart Bayless is watching. Oh, Stuart Bayless. Wow, I haven't seen him for a while. Nice to see you, Stuart. Ray Jordan says the best legend that I love is called The Witch of Monterrey, Mexico. Fascinating and sightings on YouTube. Oh, Ray. I don't know much about that. I'll have to check that out. That sounds interesting. Oh, Ray. Hang on, I recognise you're a real person. You requested me on Facebook today, I think, and I wasn't fully sure if you were real or not. You know, I checked you out, right, Ray? I looked through and I thought, yeah, the books he likes and the restaurant, you like the restaurant and other things. I'm like, this seems like a real person, but is it real? I don't know. So I withdrew my judgment. But now you've talked about the Witch of Monterrey, Mexico. You have proved yourself, Ray. Welcome to the fold. I will accept your friend request. Sean Mitchell's watching. Sean, great to hear from you. Hope you're doing all right. Yo, Richard, says Leslie Crooks. Okay. Donna Langford Hodges. Oh, gosh, I remember Donna very well. Our daughter told us... That sounded dodgy. It wasn't meant to. Our daughter told us all her friends got the amount of coins for their... this is back to the tooth thing. Our daughter told us that all her friends got the amount of coins for their ages. And so she was 5. When she was 5, she lost her first tooth, so she got £5. Having since checked with other parents, the going rate is £1 to £2. That's... Actually, well... What happens if they lose a tooth when they're elderly? Right. Good point, though. Hi, Leslie. Husband may want in. Yes, Leslie Crook's husband may well be going on a Yeti hunt. Anne Winsper is watching. Anne has had some difficulties today with her tooth, which I have seen and sympathised with, breaking off in 7 places. My heart breaks. But Anne Winsper is a fascinating woman, and she, by the way, is really an expert in EVP, which is electronic voice phenomena. So if you want to find out more about that, get in touch with her because she knows her stuff. Okay. By the way, EVP being, you know, like when people record things and they listen to it back and they can hear some sort of spectral voice going on. Anna Hayes says she can't wait to see the Parapod movie. I missed the podcast so much. I've watched the first 20 minutes of it so far because that's all I had time for last night. It's funny. It's funny. Michael Pendergrass is watching. Thanks for joining us, Michael. And yeah, very happy to plug the Parapod movie. Looks great. Ben Murdoch, songwriter extraordinaire. Hello, Ben. Nice to meet you. And Simon Goddard too. Okay. Angela Watt asks a question. Oh, hello, Simon, by the way. Nice to see you in the fold here. Angela Watts just asked a very good question. Are they going to make any movies of your books? Oh, my word. I hope so. I really hope so. They are kind of out there, and I just don't know if they are relevant enough at the moment or not. I mean, the main protagonist's a man, and maybe that's not very kind of interesting at the moment. I have no problem, by the way, of having female protagonists, and I don't have any problem with trends in films, or I'm not the type who says don't follow a trend. If people are into having certain types of fiction at the moment and are making films out of it, fine. And I think maybe at the moment there's a lot of kind of high concept stuff and grounded sci-fi and all that sort of thing, which actually, to be honest, I'm thinking about writing one of those potentially. But at the same time, I don't know. But I would love it. I would absolutely love it. So if anyone out there knows any producers or anything like that, I would adore the idea of the Matt Hunter books becoming something on the screen. That would be absolutely amazing. Richard Freeman, everyone, get ready for a joke coming. He says, Watership Down starred Warren Beatty. Still got it. Arthur Machen was a great author, but sadly not as well known as he should be, says Michael Prendergast. You're quite right. And M.R. James is still the scariest author, yes. It was drawn from the life. Scary stuff. Paul Child says, going back to the thing about insanity, there was a lot of mental health related stuff in Possession, so that must have been hard to write. You handled it tentatively though, while capturing stigmas other people hold about it. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, right? I was a little bit nervous writing about that topic, because I know how sensitive it is, and I just didn't want to offend anyone. I didn't want to upset anybody, but I just thought it was impossible to write a book about demonic possession and not explore the potential of misdiagnosed mental health. And so yeah, I tried to explore that, and obviously, and also throughout the book, Matt Hunter himself is struggling in some ways with the impact on his own mental health of the things he's seen. That's something that sometimes you take for granted when you're reading books or seeing heroes, that they, there's so many dead bodies, and you think, can you just brush that off, or does that not start to affect you? And so for Matt Hunter, it does affect him in many ways, and it's not an easy thing to deal with. And so yeah, I thank you for saying I handled that sensitively. I really thought about how to do that and tried hard, but I was worried that I didn't want to upset anyone, because I realized that it's a complicated area, yeah. So cheers, thanks, Paul. Gordon Tant's watching. Hello. Took a picture of you there, Gordon. See what I mean? Right. You like the light. Thanks for that, Ben. Richard Freeman says The Frighteners was great. It would be an amazing TV series if adapted. You know what? I'd be totally up for that. And who knows? Maybe someone else would lead it or something. But I would be quite up for pretend. I mean, not that I would be any good. I don't know. Maybe I'd be really crap at it. But I'd like the idea of going back out on the road and experiencing the things and more that I did in The Frighteners. The Frighteners was an absolute blast to research. And particularly, The Frighteners, by the way, if you're just joining us or you don't know what it is a book. Oh, it's up on my shelf. I can't be bothered. But it's up there. No, I should commit myself. Hang on a second. Right, The Frighteners. This is my non-fiction book in lovely hardback, which was Why We Love Monsters, Ghosts, Death and Gore, and I got to travel around for this and go to Transylvania and Rome and across Britain. And one of the best things about this book was that I did I think it was about a week's road trip throughout England, meeting interesting people, going on werewolf hunts, going on ghost hunts, interviewing vampires, just all this sort of thing in Britain, and I just absolutely loved it. It's one of the most memorable most special times of my life, having that opportunity, even though my car broke down in the midst of it. Actually, that was spooky. Leslie, you asked me about spooky things. My car broke down. I stayed at a guy's house called Matt Arnold, and we stayed up into the night. I'd spoken at this pagan event on the first night, and they'd asked me to go and speak about faith, so I spoke about my faith at this pagan meeting. And on the night, me and Matt Arnold and his wife Jo stayed up till late, sort of drinking home brew and just chatting. That was a really good laugh. And he said something about the local area being a place where cars break down for no reason. He said something like that, and I could have misinterpreted it. I can't remember. But anyway, the next morning I left his house and my car broke down immediately. That was kind of spooky. Right. Oh, I could have had a crap car. Right. Let's see. Andy Hobbs is watching. Gosh, I haven't seen Andy for a long time. He is a good guy. Good guy. Beth Darlington. Hello, Beth. How nice to see you. Makes a change seeing you this time of night. Normally, when we were at the ASAP conference, me, you, and a whole bunch of Richard Freeman and the others were up until about 4 a.m, as I recall, having a laugh. Anyway, the Skinwalker Ranch, has that ever intrigued me? Yeah, it has. For those of you who don't know, the Skinwalker Ranch is this place where multiple paranormal events have happened, like everything you could think of, from UFOs to cryptozoology and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, very, very intriguing, and I don't know a great deal about it, but what I know about it has piqued my imagination. Liz Barnsley says, I agree on Possession. It was Possessed, yes, it was brilliantly done. The book. I like that the books leave that tiny bit of doubt on the supernatural versus Matt being logically correct on all counts. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, that's important to me. I want to leave the door open to potentially there being a supernatural answer, because I don't know what it is, right? I hate the idea of forcing a worldview on another person. I hate that, because I want you to decide what you're into. And so I want to present the books that have both options. And so for me, if I shut everything down to it's supernatural or it's not supernatural, that would be a shame. Having said all that though, right, I would love to, if I ever get the opportunity to write a straight out horror book, I would love to write a book that it's just full on, no doubt about it, supernatural, like stuff is going on, you know, like I think it's because I'm currently watching Stephen King's The Outsider, which I'm enjoying, and it's like, oh yeah, man, I'd love the opportunity to write stuff like that, but hey, we'll see. Ray Jordan says, clove oil and on your tooth, yeah, that will help. Ben Murdoch, have any places around the UK grabbed your attention as a potential setting for a book? Yeah, your house. I feel like a lot of violent things happen there. Only kidding, Ben, of course not. Yeah. I mean, actually, if you look through, this whole week has been the Obsessed with Possessed week. And the Book Trail, which is a kind of literary travel agency, posted yesterday, I think it was, all of the kind of the real world locations of where Possessed is set. So I like to set things in real places. But when I came to the end of writing Possessed, I started reading a book called Sea Shaken Houses, which was a history of the rock lighthouses of Britain. And I found it really quite a fun book, well, an interesting book, but I love lighthouses. And so like in my head, I'm thinking, at some point I need to write a book that involves a lighthouse. Now around the same time, I spotted that a film was coming out called The Lighthouse, which I'm looking forward to seeing. I haven't seen it yet. But before that film came out, I just thought it would be great to have something set in a rock lighthouse, a lighthouse that is out at sea. Gail Fiddler is watching. Hello, Gail Fiddler. Last time I saw Gail, I think me and Gail and Ben Fiddler, her partner, was stuck in a very small lift. Anna Hayes, how would you feel if one day someone chose your works as their specialist subject or mastermind? I would be, firstly, flabbergasted, and secondly, I'd think they'd do better than I would, because it's amazing how much I forget. Like, I'll write a book, and then someone will say, like someone the other day, like even read Possessed, and someone review said it was gory in places, and I thought, like, is it? I can't remember. I can't remember what I wrote in that. It comes to mind when I think about it, but yeah, that would be really cool. But I think they would probably be better than me. Yeah, Liz Barnsley, I think she could do mastermind on Matt Hunter because she is an expert. Your book is upside down. What book? Huh? This one? I don't know. All right. Let's see what's next. Paul Child says, have you read any of the Merrily Watkins books by Phil Rickman? Yes, I have indeed, and they're great. I love the Merrily Watkins books, and I would recommend them. And I've had the pleasure of being interviewed by Phil Rickman recently, and I'm going back on his show again to be interviewed again about Possessed. So, to be honest, like Phil Rickman and I explore similar territory, and he does it with much more panache and style. And his books are a bit more towards the drama, thriller, with definitely spooky supernatural elements, whereas I suppose my books veer towards like fully embrace horror, I suppose, and kind of action-packed horror. In some ways, I would say my books are a lot more pulpy than his, and his books are, more kind of thoughtful and deep, and I think they're amazing books, and so definitely are worth seeing. I'd pay good money to see a Matt and Merrily team up. That would be good. Perfectly mismatched buddy movie. Good point. Andy Hobbs says, I was a bit disturbed to realise my surname was a name for evil. A bit odd for a vicar. Oh, of course, Hobbs Hill. Yes, Andy Hobbs is a vicar. And Hobbs being the Old English name for devil. So, Andy Devil. So how would you feel if your vicar came through and was going to bury you and he said, I am the devil? It would probably be a shock. Hello, Ben Alexander. Nice to see you. Congratulations on the new job. Right. Paul Childs. I was also let autocorrect do the typing. Possessed, yes. Right. Hobbs End in Quatermass in the Pit. Paul Lewis is watching. Goodness, all the big names. Hayley Stevens as well. Hayley Stevens is a really top flight paranormal investigator who comes from the skeptical point of view and yet has a very generous, and open-hearted view towards people who believe. So it's a nice, yeah. Is she like a Matt Hunter? I don't know. Maybe. No, she's not actually. She's kind of the Matt Hunter. Matt Hunter can be sometimes really quite dismissive. Anyway, yes, Paul Charles was the one who said it was gory, but actually it's not you. I saw someone else say that Possessed was hip deep in blood. Oh no. Actually, I remember. What time is it, by the way? I hope I'm not getting to the boring stage for you. I actually remember with this book that I sent out a tweet and I was asking people, do people like gore? Because sometimes when I'm sitting there, I just go for it, and then later when I look at it back, it's shocking. But at the time, you're not thinking it's shocking because it's just all controlled in your own head. And when a gory thing comes out or a violent thing comes out, you're just going, yeah, that's pretty intense, and I want intense for this moment. And then later you read it back and you go, flipping heck, that's dark. And the time I found that particularly was with Purged, my first novel. And the first chapter of Purged, I still find deeply disturbing. And when I wrote it, I was just going for atmospheric and dark. But it was only when I looked back at it, when I went to do a reading at an event, and I read it back and I went, this is horrible. Isn't that weird? At the time when you're writing it, you don't feel it's that horrible because you're in control of it. But when the author comes and presents it to you, you're not in control. And that's when it becomes disturbing. Anyway, Gordon Tant, looking forward to seeing you at Litfest. Yes, I'm going to appear at Amtil Literary Festival. When's that, Gordon? I can't remember. March or something? No, April. Can't remember. But I signed the contract for that today. And I'm going to be leading a 1.5 hour session on how to write scary stuff. Okay. Oh, Julie Law says she had her she said my book was upside down, but it looks like she had her phone upside down. Classic. Right. Ben Foster says this probably goes too far into spoiler territory, but what happened to Claire? Who's Claire? Claire. What happened to her afterwards? Do I not say? I can't remember. I think she became an international art thief. I don't know. I can't remember. I know who she is, but did I not say what happened to her? I really can't remember. Wow. See, there's a good example. She exploded. That's what happened. Okay, Harvey Fenton is watching. Okay, I thought the last bit of Possessed was superb. Oh, Liz, you make me feel like $1 million. I thought the last bit of Possessed was superb. It was a bit gory, but still really edge of the seat. I made my lip bleed biting at it. Oh, that's good. That's good. It's funny the gore because there's actually a bit in the end which I thought was too gory, and I looked at it. And then in the edits, when we were doing the edits with the editors, I think I wrote in the comments, is this too gory? Should I pull back? But I'm sure someone said, nah, just keep it in, so I did. Anyway, Anna Hayes, I think too many years of weird James Herbert descriptors has numbed me to the grotesque in literature. Yes, James Herbert, and particularly James Herbert's sex scenes, they have numbed me to the grotesqueness of sex. So I need to describe that in a different way. What I mean is James Herbert's sex scenes are great, and I remember them certainly as a teenager, but they have a really weird formality about them. Tammy Webster, there is a bit in Purge that still haunts me now. Ooh, what is it? Is it the bit I talked about earlier about the first chapter? Or is it the bit where somebody cuts someone's lips off? That was disgusting. Don't know what come over me when I wrote that. Right. Yeah, Richard Freeman says suggestion is scarier rather than out and out gore, and that's why I like M.R. James so much. I agree with you, Richard, although occasionally, sometimes in films, I think films can take it to the next level. Like the best example, I think, is John Carpenter's The Thing, which does the opposite of hiding, and it shows you everything, but it shows you with such panache and great effects that actually it it goes way beyond your own imagination, or it did for me. So, or Alien, you know, Ridley Scott's Alien. Like, I'm so glad they showed the alien in that, because the design of it is terrifying and beyond what I could imagine. But yeah, I agree. M.R. James and that sort of stuff gets under your skin more because it's suggestion. Yes, it was James' review that talked about hip deep in blood. And yes, Liz Barnsley says she remembers messaging me about the first bit of Purging, complaining that she didn't sleep for 3 nights. I thank you. Ben Foster says, the Claire that you wrote, I think she ran into a lift, but possibly not mentioned afterwards unless I forgot. Yeah, I know what you mean, but I literally have no clue what happened to her. Yeah, do I not talk about it? Do I not mention if she... Maybe she just vanishes. Maybe she was just dramatically convenient and I'm like, yeah, who cares about her? No, I wouldn't have thought that. Maybe I just forgot. I don't know. You'll find out in the spin-off series about Claire. Favourite brutalist building? I'm partial to the Barbican. Ooh. Hang on. Stay there. Stay there. Right? Don't go anywhere, you freaks. Right. Okay. Look, I'm going to show you something, right? This is my brutalist calendar from last year. And I want to show you something because this is where the finale of Possessed takes place. Because I had this up on my... Here we go. I had this up on my wall as I was writing Possessed, and during the month of the finale, when I was starting to write the finale, this appeared. And I looked at this building and I just thought, holy smokes, what is that? It looks like a UFO, it looks like an alien, it looks like it looks so weird. And also I thought, I wouldn't want to get trapped in there. Like, how would I get out of there? And immediately I thought, that's the place where the end of Possessed happens. So I don't know if anyone else has imagined what the end of Possessed looks like, if you've read the book already. But for me, it's that. In fact, Matt specifically says, this is the Geisel Library in, where is it, San Diego? Yeah, San Diego. Matt specifically says that the Reed is built on that. By the way, the Reed Center is named after Oliver Reed and his character. And the fact that he was in the David Cronenberg film, The Brood, which was a medical centre where weird things happened. Okay, I'm partial to the Barbican too, very much so. I do hope we're not going to get a recreation of the Vicar in the fog. Yeah, I'll try not to do that. Holding onto a gold cross. Oh, Tammy Webster says it happened in the bath. I know which bit you mean, and that creeps me out too. Yeah. Wow. Amazing, isn't it? You forget these things and they come back as if somebody else wrote them. Maybe someone else did write them. Maybe I've been possessed all this time. Anyway, Louise Marston. Hello, Louise. Nice to see you. Nice. Oh, The Bath, says Liz. Thanks for the reminder. The Thing's a great movie and so is Alien. Michelle Handyside's watching. It's my cousin right there. Cool lady. All-time favourite horror flick. Mine is Q, the Winged Serpent and Horror Express. Yeah, Q, the Winged Serpent is an amazing film. I love that. Great soundtrack. And my favourite horror film, it's too much to ask. Come on, man, Richard, that's really hard. But I still absolutely adore The Changeling from 1980. George C. Scott. I love Night of the Demon, 1950s. Jack Turner. I love Dawn of the Dead. George Romero. I find it's just an exciting, brilliant film. And yeah, so many. She says, oh, Louise Marsden says she just started on Possessed, but can't read my books in bed. Why not? What's wrong with your bed? Like, oh, you mean, what, too scary? I hope so. Right, let me look at the time. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's 9 o'clock, which I technically said that I would come to the end around 9. Did I say that? I think it said that on the thing. And look, I've finished my wine. So I've got a few more questions just down here, which I better ask. And then I guess we better let you good people get on with your lives. Let's have a look. This has been fun, by the way. I've enjoyed it. An hour of just chatting. And you know what's best about it? You're having a conversation with people who don't speak. It's lovely. You know, you don't have to hear them whittering on about their interests. All you do is talk about yours. I'm kidding. Actually, that's one of the weird parts. It's strange having a conversation where you guys aren't talking back to me. But I've actually really enjoyed this, so maybe if you wanted me to do it again, we could, because it was fun. Okay, let's have a look. Yes, another question from Angela Watt. If you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice on writing that would have helped you at the start of your writing career, what would it be? I think maybe it would have been, it's not easy being a writer. And that sounds weird, but it's hard work. I don't mean it's hard work. In one ways, it's not hard work writing. It's hard work like making a living as a writer, because it's just not easy to make a decent income from writing, and that's some writers do, but not all do. And so I still do things alongside it to support my writing, and no shame in that. But yeah, I think I'd say don't assume that this is kind of a passport to riches, because it absolutely isn't. Who knows? Something might be around the corner. You never know. But no, it's not really like that. But I would say that it's I always say this. I think writing is a noble task, and I think if you're out there and if you're a writer, I would just sort of sympathise with you and say it's hard. It's hard to be able to find the space and the time to do it. There's an interesting article come out on The Guardian today which talks about how authors who claim to write full time may only be able to do that because they can afford to. And that it implies that full-time writing is a pursuit of the middle class. Because if you're working class, you need to get money, you haven't got time to write. You've got to go out and earn a living. Whereas you can have the impression that all of these full-time writers are like got loads of money from writing, and that's why they're able to write full-time, but actually they may be getting money from elsewhere. Certainly I get money from elsewhere doing other bits of work here and there. So yeah, that was interesting. But I think I would give that a bit of advice of just saying, hope for success, of course, but don't be shocked if it's hard, in that sort of way. But keep going, because it's a good thing to do, and I definitely have loved doing it, and I do hope I get to do it again, in the future. So we'll see. Right, Night of the Demon would have been even better if Turnier had been allowed to not show the monster, but even then the design was brilliant. Yes, if you've seen Night of the Demon, you'll know that the monster in that is shown up front at the beginning, which does take away from the film. However, I'm one of the few people who actually likes the monster, and that's because I first saw Night of the Demon when I was about 11, and I thought the film was great, and I loved the monster straight up, and I was like, holy crap, that monster looks great for a 1950s film, and I fell in love with the whole film. I do think it'd probably be a superior film if the monster wasn't in it at the beginning, but actually I fell in love with it, monster and all, so yeah, I liked it. Louise Marsden, any thoughts on Matt Hunter 5? Well, yes, that one's going to be called Disrobed, because it has to be one single word, disrobed. Then it all takes place in a sauna, and basically he goes into this sauna at the start, and he finds this kind of vicar who's dancing and stuff, and then Matt Hunter just starts dancing, and then all of a sudden, like, the doors open in the third chapter, and all these like weird kind of leprechaun things come in, and then literally they just dance until like the last part, and then they leave. And then I'm not sure how to end it, but I'm thinking maybe at the end they kind of just get a shower like normal, and they get dressed and then they go for a coffee. That's what I've got so far. I'm thinking it could be my breakthrough. Anyway, Julie Law says, it's the noise that gets me when the monster is on. Oh, on Night of the Demon. Yeah, there is a weird noise that's like a rattly, well observed, a rattly like, which is really weird. Right. I think, folks, we've come to the end of our questions, and there's been constant questions for this whole hour, which I'm pretty chuffed about. I was worried I might be sat here on my own, talking about crap, but instead I've been sat with you guys talking about crap. And that's nice. So, listen, I think we better draw it to a close, because you have lives to live, and just to say, If you're interested, the rest, the book, where is it at? The book Possessed is out now in trade paperback and also an audiobook. No, audiobook's coming, March, I think. And ebook as well. And yeah, I'm going to be, if you're in Hemel Hempstead area, I'm going to be signing books on Saturday. Good show. Thanks, Leslie. I'm glad you came. You rock. Leslie's amazing. She's such a great person. She really changed my life in so many ways by saying yes, so hooray for her. But yes, thanks for listening. And I've got a busy few days ahead. On tomorrow night, I've got to go and I'm presenting an award, a short story. I've never done this before, right? I've got to present an award, right, at a writing competition, which I have judged. And it's so well organised. I was sent all of this material and it's like tells you exactly where you've got to stand and do things. So anyway, so I'm going to do that tomorrow night. And then the day after that, oh yeah, and they put me up at a hotel, which is nice. I'm staying in a very swanky hotel tomorrow night. I've got a meeting in that hotel at some point tomorrow as well. I've got to do that. And then the next day I've got a book signing, which is in Hemel Hempstead in Waterstone, so if you're around there, come and see me. And then on Sunday, I'm going to be on Pop-Up Live Submissions, which is on YouTube. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's basically authors who send their books in to be assessed by a literary agent, and me. Well, sorry, I'm the guest this week who joins that. And this is crazy, but on YouTube at 5 p.m. on Sunday, if you're interested, there's me and a literary agent and someone else. I don't know who the other person will be, assessing authors' books that they've submitted in real time, and they're watching at home and we're critiquing these submissions and deciding whether or not the agent should take them on or not. It's called Pop-Up Submissions and it's good. Anyway, listen, I'm waffling too much. So I've turned Buffy off to watch this. I don't think I've ever turned Buffy off to watch something else before. I am so honoured. I thank you. Well, I think on that note, we'll say good night. Thank you for watching, everybody. I'm probably going to go get a refill. But until next time, don't forget. That's how I always end my other stuff. Anyway, right, I'm going to press finish now. Goodbye. Have a nice world of life.